Today I'm going to talk you through 5 depreciated luxury cars for 100k, 50k, 25k, 10k and 5k. Let's get straight into it. Let's kick off with our 100k car, the 3rd generation Bentley Flying Spur, built on a brand new platform which is shared with the Bentley Continental GT and the Porsche Panamera, and yet somehow appears bigger in every way while sharing those more modern, quite well loved muscular Bentley aesthetics. I recently had the chance to drive the older Mulsanne and I was blown away by how good it was to cruise around in, and this Flying Spur takes a similar formula with features like the rotating display on the interior, screens in the rear that passengers can use to control a bunch of the car's systems, and of course enjoy some entertainment, and probably most importantly, the car feels like it's built like a tank. Though the car wasn't completely hand built in the same way as the Mulsanne was, the interior is noted as being handcrafted, which to be honest is the most important part when it comes to luxury cars. It had the option of 15 different leather colours for the interior, retained some analog dials as expected in luxury cars like the chronometer, compass and temperature gauge, and you can even rotate that screen away to make it feel a bit more old school and less digital. These come with a massive 6-litre twin turbocharged W12 engine, making 626 brake horsepower, taking him to 60 in 3.7 seconds, which is some serious performance out of a car weighing in at almost 2,500 kilograms. It's also taking a bit from the Rolls-Royce playbook with a retractable Flying B logo, just like the Spirit of Ecstasy, and it came with all-wheel steering to help move all that heft about, given the wheelbase is 130mm longer than the previous generation. These start at around the £93,000 mark nowadays, and for our 100k limit you'll be looking at a 2020 example that's done around 35,000 miles. Given these are pretty new, the reliability records are quite sparse. I would be worried about air suspension long term, as even in the short term some owners have had issues with them, typically covered under warranty. The best part is that engine isn't stressed at all, so if you follow Bentley's expensive maintenance schedules you should be able to rest much more easily. Cutting that budget down in half now to 50k, we have the 7th generation Rolls-Royce Phantom, a car that revived the Phantom nameplate that had been applied to a rich history of old luxury cars from the brand. The one thing I'll say about this Phantom, however, is that it is by no means as exclusive as any of its predecessors, given most of them were super low volume cars for the ultra wealthy. These are also for the ultra wealthy, but with significantly higher numbers being produced, which has contributed to that depreciation. That's not to detract from how important this car was for the brand though. In fact, the only car they produced from 2003 to 2009 before the Ghost came in as the smaller sibling was this car, and the brand has mostly gone from strength to strength in popular culture and status ever since. It gets a lovely 6.75 litre V12 engine, making 453 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 5.7 seconds, which is actually pretty sick for the joint oldest car on the list, and a car that is not even slightly focused on pace. Even though it's not a low volume car, Rolls-Royce offered some serious specability for the age of this car. Customers could choose from 44,000 paint colours, and the interior leather could be any colour they could dream of, and that's just the start. It got a whole different level of luxury, from 5-zone climate control to power opening and closing everything, including those coach style rear doors, the umbrellas in the door cards, the retracting Spirits of Ecstasy, the Rolls-Royce logos on the wheel hubs that always remain upright, and the power reserve dial instead of a tachometer. This thing is at the business end of the luxury markets for its time. They'll run you around £45,000 at the bottom end, and 50k will get you a 2005 example with high mileage. The main issues I could find with these are electrical, as the cars have a lot of complex electronics for their age, leaving them open to failures. Replacing the air suspension also seems to be a consistent theme, and radiator leaks are known, as well as leaks from the rocker cover gaskets. Being a Rolls-Royce, these won't be cheap fixes either. Now let's talk about our 25k car for this video, the Mercedes S63 AMG, which came in both short and long wheelbases, as well as offering a coupe option I've spoken about in a recent video. The saloons of course are the most luxurious, but as AMG products they have to draw a fine line between luxury and performance, offering enough of the latter to make them serious super saloon contenders, and enough of the former to be enticing in the market they're aiming at. I think the difficulty of achieving that task is part of the reason why these have dropped so much in price, as typically it would probably make more sense to go for an S600L or an S500L instead of an S63L AMG if you're after a powerful limousine, but that makes these all the better on value for money. Despite being the most performance focused car on the list, it's not actually the quickest, as it's beaten by the Bentley, but still gets a 5.5 litre twin turbocharged V8 block, producing 576 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 3.9 seconds. Not bad for a rear wheel drive luxury luxury car. Most of the performance focus outside of that engine comes from the uprated airmatic suspension, which can code switch to match your driving preference from fast to cruising, and the weight saving done around the car as well. They also get more aggressive options on the exterior like the carbon fiber package, the carbon ceramic brake package, and carbon interior package too, all of which seem kinda pointless on a luxury car, but each to their own. Fortunately, they also got a bunch of luxury options too, like the chauffeur package, executive seats in the rear which recline beautifully, or the first class rear suite which transforms the rear into effectively 2 individual offices for productivity and luxury. Insane. £23,500 is the minimum that I could find these listed for, and 25k will get you a 2014 example that's done around 70,000 miles. The main issues I could find were around the turbos, the airmatic suspension, and the transmission, which is specifically known for harsh shifting when it's in a state of disrepair. The other thing to note is of course the electrics, with the start-stop system failing and other luxuries malfunctioning. So I hope you're enjoying this video. I just wanted to stop for a quick second to talk about the fact that 72% of people watching this right now are not subscribed, so do hit subscribe if that applies to you. If you're new here, I make 2 videos every single week on cars, what's not to love, and let me know in the comments down below what your personal favourite luxury car is. We're getting a lot of historically British brands into this video, as here we have the Jaguar XJ long wheelbase for our 10k car from the 4th generation XJ. This car was designed by the legendary Callum, which I think is notable for 2 main reasons. Firstly, despite its age, I actually think the design of these is pretty timeless. They don't look like an old car in the same way as the previous XJ generations, despite ending production in 2019, and secondly, the car is actually built on the same underpinnings as the previous generation, yet the two look worlds apart aesthetically. To be fair, part of that timeless design might be because it actually didn't get a successor, so this is the newest you can get, but let's gloss over that point for a moment. It was unveiled at the prestigious Pebble Beast Concours d'Elegance back in 2009, and it originally came in a bunch of specs, but if you want to get straight to the luxury, go for an autobiography, as it comes with basically the best luxury features that this car can offer for all occupants, particularly in the rear. It's not on the level of a Bentley or Rolls-Royce, but it's still pretty sick for a sub 10k car. Though these did get a seriously aggressive V8 option, they're hard to find within our price range when compared with the 3-litre turbocharged V6 diesel block that makes 295 brake horsepower, taking them to 60 in 5.9 seconds, so only slightly slower than the Phantom. These were actually very successful all in, and only departed to make way for a new flagship electric XJ in 2019, but sadly that XJ was cancelled in 2021, with the brand of course preparing for its drastic rebrand in 2024. £5,000 is the minimum that I could find these listed for, and double that will get you into a 2011 example that's done around 90,000 miles. Air suspension, funnily enough, is also a problem on these, typically caused by the compressor though more specifically, which is a slightly cheaper replacement than the actual dampers. The DPF is also known to cause issues on cars that don't leave cities or towns, and some of these steel rivets have been known to suffer corrosion. Let's talk about the VW Phaeton as we cut our budget in half again, down to 5k. VW are of course not known for being a luxury car brand, but the Phaeton was an example of pure pettiness, and proved that VW could seriously trouble its German rivals from BMW and Mercedes if they want to, which is ultimately a precursor to the flying Spur we spoke about at the start of this video. When Ferdinand Piëch, chairman of VW Group at the time, realised BMW and Mercedes were looking at competing in the smaller, cheaper car market with the compact 3 Series and the A-Class, he wanted to send a message that if both of those brands stepped on VW's turf, VW would retaliate. So the Phaeton was born to offer the best of the best, with a secret list of 10 parameters Piëch wanted the engineers to deliver on. Some of those parameters still aren't known, but plenty are, and they came together to make a car that apparently got over 100 patents to stop other cars from copying some of its technology and ideas, and to make a car that feels a lot like a Bentley Continental Flying Spur from the mid-2000s, just with VW badges instead. Like the Jag, there are some cooler engine options that are harder to come by, like the W12 you get in the Conti, just without the turbochargers, but normally you'll be looking at a 3-litre turbocharged V6 engine, making 229 brake horsepower, taking him to 60 in 8.1 seconds, so not quick at all, but value and luxury for money makes up for that. You'll find them starting at around the £1,500 mark, and 5k will easily get you a 2003 model with around 50,000 miles on the clock. The ABS is known to fail on these, typically due to sensors or pumps failing. The engine is also known to have pretty high oil consumption, which can be due to worn piston rings or valve seals. Some pre-2006 models were known to have rattling chains on startup too, which can cause a lot of trouble, and the 3-litre TDI can have swirl flap actuator failures. If you enjoyed this video, do remember to hit subscribe for 2 videos every week. Thanks to you all for watching, and to the patrons for their support. Click on screen to see my review of a surprisingly cheap luxury car.